Hello there, and thank you so much for allowing me to present our paper. Although not in ideal circumstances, webby, online, we are going to talk about happiness for all. We're going to discuss the question whether happiness is actually a public good in the economic sense of things. This is my paper along with my mentor, supervisor, friend, colleague, Professor Tal Shavit, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Okay, so let's first discuss. If we're talking about happiness as a public good, we are talking about scaling of benefits. So let's start with a little bit of storytelling. Imagine two commuters, Maya and Daniel, inching through the same traffic jam. Maya has just finished a free 10-minute mindfulness session her employer streams every morning or something else that is beneficial for her mental well-being and happiness. Daniel hasn't. One arrives at work calmer, kinder, and surprisingly productive. Now scale that single difference to an entire city, to a nation. Exactly. This is what we are talking about. What may happen to GDP, to healthcare costs, to productivity of the nation, of the society as a whole, due to the external impact of the benefits derived from happier society. So our research problem and stakes are as follows. We claim that while public goods theory has long focused on bridges and vaccines, it rarely asks whether intangible assets like happiness behave the same way. Yet, cross-disciplinary evidence shows that increases in subjective well-being ripple outward as a positive externality. Our work addresses a gap. Can we coherently model happiness as an indirect public good and design a policy around it, as is usually the case with public goods? So our central question is, does targeted investment in happiness create non-excludable, non-rival benefits? These are the properties of public good. We'll discuss it later in depth. Benefits large enough to merit a public good treatment from economic standpoint. The classic definition of public good to see whether happiness can be defined or create some kind of public goods are defined by two properties as said before. The first one is non-excludability, that you can't stop others from benefiting. The second is non-rivalry, that one person use doesn't diminish others. Recent work extends the lens to intangibles, knowledge spillovers and social capital, and the gap is that prior studies examine happiness outcomes but treat them as private utilities. They overlook systematic spillovers, lower absenteeism, higher civic trust, reduce healthcare load, and other societal benefits from an economic standpoint. So, we have some kind of debates to present before we start. Some scholars argue that happiness is too subjective to quantify. Yet, Bhutan's Gross National Happiness Index and New Zealand's well-being budget operationalize the happiness measurement and management at scale. So while previous studies document what happiness correlates with, they fail to address how investments in happiness satisfy public good criteria and how free riding might be mitigated. Let us take a moment to reflect. What public project in your country quietly boosts happiness without being labeled as such? This is important. If we want to create the impact of happiness, we need to first study what it includes. So our methodology is First, the approach is theoretical synthesis, marrying public goods economics with well-being and happiness science. The second is comparative case analysis. Governments like in Finland and New Zealand, municipalities and firms. Then we conduct an analytical framework. How investment in happiness may enhance it, and as a result, create externalities, positive externalities of multiple sorts, and create some kind of problems, but also benefits. Our data source include meta-analytic findings on workplace happiness and productivity, national well-being indices, and secondary cost-benefit estimates for healthcare and productivity gains. There are also other sources, but these are the main ones. There are also limitations, the measurement subjectivity, as said before, the temporal lag between investment and spillover capture, because if someone is investing in happiness, the spillover effect may take some time, even a few years, and possible cultural moderators needs to be addressed as well in this matter. We found that. Now I can talk slowly because this is the meat and potatoes of the paper. First and foremost, happiness diffuses socially. Happiness behaves like a contagion. If somebody is happier, he makes people around him happier. The second benefit is surprisingly, or it can be also not so surprisingly, corporate wellness programs lower regional healthcare claims, benefiting insurers who never paid for the program. Municipal park investments raise adjustments firms' productivity via healthier, happier workers, mirroring classic lighthouse economics. Our third finding is firms' free ride on municipal happiness initiatives. Citizens' free ride on corporate mental health, research, and development. Yet, policy levers tax credits and ISO standards. Social impact bonds make sure that we align incentives without destroying the non-excludability. We have some kind of anecdotes. Finland embeds mindfulness in elementary curricula. 10 years on, teachers' retention is up, youth crime down, and small and medium enterprises report better prepared recruits. That's a textbook public good spillover. Theoretical advance. First, positions happiness as an indirect public good, extending taxonomy. Second, integrates competence, cascade, and social contagion into economic models. So this is a flowchart that claims the associated benefit. If a corporation, let's assume it's called stakeholder A, invests in employee happiness, then the employees should be happier. But when they are happier, they are also healthier. Healthier employees, healthier people in general are some sort of externality and have an indirect, broader impact, same as public good. And as a result, the health system, for example, which is stakeholder B, can enjoy the public good properties as a free rider. We have another example here. If a municipal government, let's say stakeholder A, introduces some kind of public happiness initiative, it makes enhanced residents' well-being or happiness, and the residents are then have increased productivity, which in fact help the organizations in which they work. So we also have a few bullet points of practical policy. How do we treat investments in employee happiness as a public good due to their externalities? First, resource allocation. In order to eliminate or maybe reduce the free rider problem, we need to include happiness indices in cost-benefit analysis. in incentive design, we need to have some kind of tiered subsidies for workplace well-being and measurement. Invest in culturally adaptive yet comparable well-being metrics to be developed in the context of employee happiness and investments in such. Of course, there may be a few counter-arguments anticipated as a result. For example, isn't happiness too individual, but we respond with the documented cross-network spillovers? And what won't metrics be gained? We have to create some kind of robust multi-indicator dashboards to reduce gaming scope. So, what would change if your funding agency, for example, scored proposals on societal happiness externalities? That's nice. Let's summarize everything in 3 lines. First, evidence shows targeted happiness investments create non-excludable, non-rival benefits. The second, a formal framework places happiness firmly inside public goods theory. And last but not least, smart incentives can convert potential free riders into co-investors. Final thoughts. My friends, we build public roads with public money because everyone benefits, even those who never drive on them. But happiness works the same way. When one person becomes more stable, more resilient, more grateful, their family changes, their workplace shifts, their community breathes a little easier. These aren't isolated improvements, they cascade. And so the real question isn't whether we can afford to invest in happiness, it's whether we can afford not to, when its effects ripple through the social fabric like light through stained glass, illuminating lives for beyond the point of origin. Thank you. I welcome your questions. This is my email, and have a lovely day. Thank you so much.